Hey everyone, I just wanted to pop in really quick and share some kind of mind-blowing aha moments I've been having just this week since the eclipse. Although I feel like these shifts have actually been taking place for at least 2 months, maybe even longer than that. And I do go into a little more detail on my podcast that I have with my friend Kara called Messages from Your Higher Self podcast. And I'll put a link to that below in case you're interested in checking that out. We cover a lot of masculine and feminine dynamic stuff, but just collective shifts that we're seeing, ways, and like helping people get in touch with their higher self and feel more connected. So, and it's great because we have very similar understandings of things, but we approach it from very different angles. So you get to hear like the way we process things differently and somehow arrive at the same place. So, but what I wanted to share today is very much related to the divine counterpart journey that many of you might resonate with. You might not be in exactly the same spot as me. I know that obviously lots of divine counterparts or twin flames have already come together. That is, of course, not the case with me. But I feel like the shifts I've been making, a lot of my personal shifts have come from reflections around that connection and the energy that is shared there. So this is no exception. So for the past... again, at least 2 months, but it could be longer. I have felt within myself, although I felt like I saw it in others before I noticed it within myself, that it felt like a lot of the women or those of us that hold more feminine energy were really moving into a space of, embodying and needing to like heal and clear anything in our masculine energy that was preventing us from, being able to take aligned action and matching up with, really balancing the masculine and feminine energies within us. So for me, I will share that none of this was conscious until this week. And honestly, the past 24 hours even have been more like, whoa. In my journey, I decided to block communication from my counterpart. And it came at a time that really nothing wrong was happening. It was just kind of on a whim, but it's something like, I don't want to say I'd been fantasizing about it, but there was always this part of me that kept getting louder and louder, and it was almost like it was waiting for something horrible to happen between us so that I would have an excuse to block him and try to move on with my life. And so I just hit some sort of like moment in my timeline that I was like, I need to do this. Like I felt like in that moment, like he hadn't done anything in particular to upset me, that, the things that were occurring were things that had been occurring for a while. Nothing really happened to me, although I did tell him that I was going to be going radio silent, which I don't know if he probably didn't really intuit that meant that I was going to block him, but I needed to go on that path. And I felt like in that moment, I felt this like in that action, I was cutting off a channel. I was reclaiming, I noticed in very short periods of time that like I was reclaiming more of my energy. And I was like in ways that it was kind of leaking out to him. And so it felt really good. I felt really productive. Looking back on it, I'm like, oh, I was really maybe still am, like really in my masculine energy, I set this like routine. I was like, for 21 days, I'm going to commit to when I get up in the morning, I'm going to go for a run. And so every day for 21 days, I would go for a run. Later in the day, I would always do yoga, and then I would meditate. And so I was like, I'm going to be consistent to this. And I felt like I also set aside like at least an hour, maybe two every day to focus on it. Even if I didn't have appointments for work, like clients, I would focus on re-listening to old hypnosis sessions so that I could share some snippets of those, on social media, or I would focus on like, creating posts that I could later share. So I was really like harnessing this energy, and I felt so great. And it's not that I was never thinking about him, but I felt like so much less of my energy was going in that direction that it really felt good. And there came a point in time about halfway, like a few weeks later, that I don't know why, but I was like, I think I'm going to unblock him now. I feel really good. I feel like if he even like came back, like contacted me at this point, I would talk to him, but I don't feel like I'd have a lot of time really, because this other stuff is really important to me. And 2 days after unblocking him, I got a text message. It just said hello. And I freaked out. I was like, oh my gosh, like, am I supposed to reply? Like, I don't know what to do. It doesn't feel right to reply. And I feel like the only way I'm going to reply is if he says like something, that's really changes like the conversation and shifts it into a way that makes it feel different than before. And I had all of these like rules and boundaries and things set up, and I felt like reflecting on that the following day, I was like, yeah, even just hearing from like a simple text message proved to me that I wasn't really where I needed to be right yet. Like I was still going to, if I re-engaged, I was going to be reopening that door and allowing my energy to flow there. And I felt like I was in a position where I didn't want to do that yet. So, blocked him again. And and by the way, I've never blocked him before. I don't really think that that's like the most mature thing to be going around doing, although I don't judge people that do it. I can't even tell you why I felt like I needed to. It just felt like something I had to do. And so when I blocked him the second time, I felt in that moment like I can't really trust my own self. Like I can't trust myself enough to know when it will be okay to unblock him. And I don't know when I'm going to be ready. I don't know when I'm going to be like strong enough and all of those things, like when will it be the right time? And so I just said to like my higher self, the universe, like, please give me a very clear, and I asked for a very specific sign. And I've never done that before. I've never asked. I really don't ask for signs. I get signs and synchronicities all the time. And I'll touch on that later, more specifically about some of those things. But I've never asked for a sign of confirmation for anything. So this was strange for me to feel like I couldn't trust myself enough to know, and that I needed a very specific sign. And it wasn't like, whatever. And I asked for this sign. It was a word in writing, and it wasn't a word that I never see. And it isn't a word that I would see every day, but it was a word that I knew at some point I'd probably encounter. But when I did, I would know that that was my sign. And so I was actually shocked. It's going on like 2 weeks. I'm not seeing this word anywhere. And I'm like, wow, that is really crazy, because in my normal life, like I didn't ask for that word because I knew I would see it. Like I wasn't trying to cheat. It was just a word that was relevant to the situation. So, about 2 weeks later, I hear someone, actually it was a client of mine, say the word. And I'm like, oh, is that my sign? Like that didn't come in writing. Like that didn't come the way I asked for it. So I don't really know. Like, And I remember asking some friends of mine, and in our Facebook community, I posed the question, and I got mixed replies. Actually, quite a few people were like, yeah, that's definitely your sign. And I'm like, yeah, but that didn't come in the way I asked it. And people were like, yeah, but you can't really specify how the universe is going to like deliver something to you. And I'm like, well, I did, and it didn't come that way. So I feel like the way I interpreted it was like, you're getting close, but it's not quite time, right? Like, it's not the green light yet to unblock him. So I just sat with that, trusted that like, that was the right thing. I obviously had a little bit of fear around unblocking him still, so I felt like that was the right move. And then probably about a week later, so this is just this week, I got the word in writing twice in the same morning. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to unblock him. And when I did, I haven't heard just to be upfront, I haven't heard a word from him yet. And I would imagine that he realized at some point that he was blocked, and it doesn't really matter what his version of that story is, or, I mean, it does matter. I care about him, but his journey is his journey, and I don't know what emotions that might have triggered in him, if any. Or, what thought patterns and all of that. So, but for me, I felt a little excited, because I was like, oh, the universe thinks I'm ready, and like, I'm ready, like, now we can like start communicating again, and I'm going to be in a good place and all of this stuff. And so I felt good about it. I felt a little nervous, but not like fearful. It was just like happy kind of nervous. And then later that day, I just felt really, really sad. Like, I was tapping in, like, I felt like opening that line. I could feel his energy so strong. Like, and it just was like, because I was feeling it so strong, it was making me feel this intense pain of like, just the reminder that I'm so connected to this person, but I can't be with him in my physical reality. And it was bringing me so much pain. And so I reached out to Kara, because she does energy work. Like, she can move and clear energy, that is kind of trapped and stuck for people. And I was like, please, can you help me? Can you help me try to move this? Like, I know that it's possible to sit in this space of like feeling his energy so strongly, and this connection being so beautiful, and not feel pain. But in this moment, like, I don't know how to get there. I can't imagine not feeling this way, because it was a feeling that I'm sure many of you can resonate, that it's like ever present. You might be able to escape it here and there, but it's like knowing that there's this deep, beautiful connection, and not being able to actually have it in your physical reality. Like, there is a part of it that's like, it's hard. It's really hard. So that's kind of where I left it off. And she was like, yeah, I got this message in meditation that you're just, not me, but if this happens, like situations like this that are painful, are because our energy field is so contracted that we're like not allowing like unconditional love energy from source. Like, it's like the resistance to allowing that energy to flow through us. And honestly, like, my mind understood what she was saying, but I was like in that moment, I'm like, I don't understand it with my being. I can mentally grasp what you're saying, but as the next couple days unfolded, it was like this aha moment of like, oh, here I have this choice, right? Like, there is the option of choosing to have faith in the connection, and to know that through my feelings and how connected I feel in almost every moment, like, that this is real. And no matter if the messages I've gotten through dreams and all of that ends up playing out, like, I'm not making it up. So there's that route. And then there's the route of none of it is true and you've made it all up and this is just a giant lesson that you have yet to pass. And I was like, and now in hindsight, I'm like, oh, so back when I chose to block him, I was choosing the path of fear. Like, I chose to go the route of being like, it's all fake. I made it up. I need to try to move on with my life and pretend that this connection doesn't exist. Like, I need to try to just go that way, which is what my soul had been like kind of, I don't know that it was necessarily nudging me, but I just kept getting these like intense fears, like, oh my God, he's gonna end up with another girl and get pregnant. Or just like these things that maybe they happen, maybe, I don't know. But for me, I was like, oh, if that happens in the midst of us like being in contact and like, you know, in different stages of like trying to figure things out, like that for me would have been enough to block him. And so it's like my mind kept creating these scenarios that were so intense and created so much fear that I wanted to block him, that I just felt like that is what I did. Like, I chose in that moment that I blocked him, even though none of those scenarios happened. I chose the path of fear. I chose to say, okay, let's set it aside. This doesn't exist for right now. It might not be real, and I need to see what that feels like. And in seeing what that feels like, I recognized that I did still feel him. And it wasn't painful. I didn't really think about him as often, but the connection was still there. And then when I opened that channel back up, the pain kind of rushed back in, right? Because, I mean, I don't know why. Because it was the reminder of what was still lingering. The resistance to just having the faith. And so in that moment, as I realized, like, oh, this is what I did, I'm like, okay, this is it. Like, I'm choosing faith, because I tried it for 2 months, whatever, however long. I tried to pretend it didn't exist, and it was still there. And even when I opened the channel back up again, it came flooding back in. So it's just like, I don't have, it's not to say I don't have a choice, like I'm being held hostage, but I don't have a choice. Like, this is the divine connection that we share. And the resistance to it is what's causing the pain. Is causing the fear and all of that. And so it was like, so I got my mind on board. I'm like, okay, not to say there won't ever be moments again where you're like, is this real? I don't know. Like, it's not really playing out the way that you thought it was going to. I made a choice in that moment, though, that my mind was going to get in line with my heart, like with my intuition, my knowing that this is real. And so to take it even a level deeper, and we go over more of this in the podcast, the Messages from Your Higher Self podcast that I do with Kara. It was, like I said in the beginning, I was seeing all these women, and me included, need to like really explore our masculine energy, right? And so I feel like throughout that time, I was exploring my masculine energy, which is, you know, shifting, but at that point still very much an energy of the head, of the mind, of making decisions based on logic and reasoning versus following your intuition and following your heart, which is much more of like a feminine energy attribute. And so I felt like when I came unblocking this, seeing things more clearly, seeing the ways that I wasn't showing up, seeing the ways that I was still acting out of fear, holding myself back, being in resistance. And in that moment that I decided to follow what my intuition knows and my heart knows to be true, no matter how it looks, was kind of like my masculine energy saying, I'm going to allow the feminine to lead me. I'm going to trust that she knows the truth of the situation, and I will take action based on that knowledge, not on the knowledge of the mind, which can oftentimes be created from a state of fear, a state of resistance. So it was like this, I feel like my energies like merged in that moment, and it was like, okay, we are now just gonna do this. We're gonna do this, and I trust you. And so as I reflect on this, I'm like, I had to, it's like, by stepping into this energy, I had to step in, like I had to fully embody the energy of that resistance, the energy of the fear, the energy of the stories that my mind was creating that wouldn't allow what I knew in my gut and my heart to be true. And this is this is my mind blown moment for today. I was thinking back to a post that was shared by Alicia Brochet of Cosmic Gateway. And if you don't already follow her, I would suggest checking out her channel. She's on Facebook, she's on Telegram. She does a lot of, speaking about divine counterpart connections, and I will link that below for you as well. So this is going back now 2 or 3 weeks. She shared something about how we're balancing masculine and feminine energies, which resonated with everything that I was also feeling. And she said that you may experience moments where you feel like you're experiencing your reality through your divine counterpart's eyes or whatever. And I was just kind of like, oh, well, that's neat. Like, I didn't really feel like I understood. Not that I didn't understand it, but I didn't feel like I had that experience in that moment. And then I'm thinking back to when I felt these, the feminine kind of moving into more of her masculine energy to heal and balance and clear it. And I'm like, oh my God. That's when I really started to, this is odd. So signs and synchronicities, sorry, I mentioned that before and I'm coming back to it now. So I've always gotten a lot of signs and synchronicities around my divine counterpart. I see, specifically his name. I see his name everywhere. I see a lot of other things, but that's probably honestly the most prominent one. And going back probably 2 or 3 months now, I started to see my own name. It would be my last name, it would be my first name, it would be both of them together, and I'm like, what is the significance of me seeing my own name? Like, why do I, I don't understand. What is the sign there? And it wasn't until the other day, and I saw this truck on it that said, Stephanie Rocks or something like that, and I was like, what a weird, it's like such a strange bumper sticker to have on a truck. Like, it caught my attention and it was my name, and I'm like, I don't get it. And in that moment I was like, oh my God, this is what Alicia was saying. I'm experiencing my reality, but through this is my divine counter. I can't. Sorry. I feel like my mind is so blown right now that I'm having trouble getting the words out clearly. But when I shifted into my masculine energy to heal and clear and balance it, it was like I was embodying the energy of my counterpart in me. So all of the things, the fears that were coming up and the need to block was it was coming from his fear. It was coming, not to say I didn't have any, but I feel like my inner masculine, he is just a physical manifestation of my inner masculine energy. So it's the same, right? But I was more fully embodying that energy, and I was making choices and decisions based on my masculine energy, which I could see so clearly in him where he makes these decisions out of fear and can't trust his heart and doesn't, like, he's not paying attention to the signs. And so I was like, oh my God, I've been embodying, like, and it's like, well, duh, but it seems mind-blowing to think, like, we kind of maybe switched roles, and because I moved into embodying more of my masculine energy, it was like I was living my life. I mean, I wasn't going to his job and stuff, but I was living my life with the experience of my masculine energy forward, and I was making decisions based on that. And it was like, I realized that all through those fearfully made decisions and resistance I had to trusting the feminine energy within me, that I still made this decision to get on board and to reunify my energies. And I don't know, that just blew my mind, that I was like, oh, and that's why I was seeing my name, is because I was in my masculine energy and I was experiencing what he would be experiencing. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. I have no idea what that means for our connection in this moment. I don't know. I do know that he is my counterpart. I do know that eventually we will somehow come back together. I don't know when that happens. I don't know how that happens. I don't know if the shifts that have occurred for me, these past couple months, but the ahas that have been like coming to me this week, if they mean anything for what's shifting for him or not. And I won't know that until whenever it is that we're able to reconnect. So I just wanted to share because I thought it was really interesting and fascinating. I'd be curious to know if any of you are experiencing anything similar, or, what your thoughts may be on the whole thing. I think that's it for now. I'll check back in if I have any more crazy aha moments and share those with you guys. But appreciate you guys listening and being part of my journey. Yeah, mind-blowing stuff. Just how connected we truly all are, but how connected and interwoven the energies from these divine counterpart relationships truly are. All right. I will talk to you guys next time. I love you.